You know, you can't do podcasts where you trash the Yankees when they do poorly and ignore the times when they're playing very well. And right now, they're playing very well.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to a Locked On MLB, Locked On Yankees crossover. This is the podcast we talk about either all of Major League Baseball or the 27-time World Series champion New York Yankees and the defending American League champion New York Yankees. The native New Englander does not really want to say that out loud, but it's true. By the way, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. The best way to get a hold of me is to use the YouTubes here and leave your comments. But I am not going solo today. I am bringing in the illustrious host who has been at the Locked On Network longer than I have. The host, the voice of Locked On Yankees. It's Stacey Gotsulias. How are you, Stacey?
I'm doing well after the last 6 games that I've watched the Yankees play.
I remember there was a time a couple of years ago when I invited you on the show a couple of times when they had done badly. I think it was the Chad Green home run, the home run he let up in Houston, or there was a bunch of bad games. And I said, "Do you want to come on the show?" And you were like, "Oh, you want me to come on the show now?" So to even out the karma, I said, well, since the Yankees have really, really answered a lot of their critics for the last week or so, it's important to talk about it. Like I compared to Biff Tannen a couple of weeks ago, because there were the big dumb bullies who can't beat a good team. Well, they're beating good teams now, even when they have dumb plays, even when they make dumb errors. And they did a couple of things the last couple of days, which I don't quite understand. And maybe you can explain it to me. They scored a few runs without a homer. And I didn't think the Yankees were allowed to do that.
They do that every once in a while. My co-host Brian and I, when they do that, we make it a point to point that out to our listeners and viewers, and how much we like when the Yankees aren't being the world beaters who hit a ton of home runs, when they actually make things happen on the bases, and guys are stealing bases, and guys are hitting singles, and guys are hitting sac flies, and
hitting it the other way when there's a runner on, if there's a runner on second with nobody out, you hit it to the second baseman. So you hopefully get into right field, but at the worst, you get the runner to third with one out. I mean, little things like that instead of me swing bat, me have launch angle.
Yeah.
They're playing smart baseball. Hey, before we keep going on here, I do want to do the trivia question that I threw on the last one, which was, and this one kind of blew my mind. How many pitchers who threw the final pitch of the World Series are still on the team they won with? How many pitchers who have the ones standing up on the mound are still wearing the uniform for the team they won the World Series with? Do you know the answer to that?
No, I don't.
Only one pitcher.
Yeah, I was going to say
is still in the organization. And here's the deal. He's been injured and in rehab all year, so he hasn't played a game in the major leagues. And Argonaut Comedy, who's an everyday Sully listener, got it right. It's Josh Sborz.
I was going to say it was someone from the Rangers, because I know it wasn't Walker Buehler was the one that pitched.
Walker Buehler did last
Dodgers
year.
And okay, right.
The year before then is Josh Sborz, oddly, who got his first major league save. Walker Buehler got his first major league save, clinching the World Series last year. Josh Sborz got his second major league save, clinching the World Series the year before that. The year before that was Ryan Presley, who's now with the Cubs.
Right.
The year before that was Will Smith, who I think is out of baseball, but I know was no longer pitching for the Braves. The Julio Urias, I think, is in jail. Sorry, but Daniel Hudson is no longer. I mean, Chris Sale is with Atlanta. Why can't the Red Sox get players like Chris Sale? And then you going back, you have Charlie Morton is with I think he's with Detroit now, and then everyone else after that's retired.
Yeah.
So there you go. The answer is Josh Spores,
Yeah,
who,
I knew it was
and by the
Rangers.
way,
I just couldn't remember
kudos
who
to
it was.
Argonaut for saying he's still in the Rangers organization, because he's played as many games in the major leagues as I have this year, which, in case you're wondering, is 0. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to the fact. Let's just cover today. The Blue Jays series just ended a couple hours ago, and after Game 1, the Blue Jays, I know you and I were talking before. And yeah, the Yankees were pooped, but but the pitcher wasn't. He was here. He got his rest, and they just fouled off and fouled off and fouled off.
But that's how they are. The
Yeah.
Blue Jays are relentless offensively.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wish it drives me crazy because they've been beating up on the Yankees all season. And every time they play them, I think to myself, why can't they see what those guys are doing across the way and be like, hey, maybe we should start doing stuff like that. We have some guys who can be like this and not swing for the fences first pitch all the time. I just don't like it. Always seems like they don't have a game plan when they're playing certain teams. And it's so frustrating to watch this team sometimes. But I chalk Friday up to them coming home late from Houston. Because have you ever had a long travel day and you know how like sluggish you feel? I feel sluggish, and I'm not swinging a bat or throwing a ball or doing anything like that. And I'm assuming Cam Schlittler flew ahead. And this was the first bad start that he's had in about 4. So chalk it up to.
But after that game, knowing they had Heel pitching in Game 2 and Bassett, who is, he's not Grover Cleveland Alexander, but he's still a fine pitcher. That game, the second game, really surprised me how they wiggled out a lot. It's the MVP of that game was kind of Cruz. The way that he Cruz and Bednar.
He's a big returnee, because he was out with the injury, and we were a little worried about him not returning to the form that he had to start the season, because who was expecting Fernando Cruz to pitch that well out of the bullpen? Like, the Yankees worked some sort of magic with him, and he's been great. Like that it's almost like a pickup. I know that's the biggest cliche when the trade deadline comes and a guy comes back from an injury. It's like, oh, it's just like a pickup, but it really is with Fernando Cruz, and he's been great since he came back. Plus, with the rain delay, I was worried about that because the Yankees don't always have the best luck when there's a prolonged rain delay and like the starting pitcher is doing well, and then you come back to the game and things happen, but that didn't happen on Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit. There's sometimes when a game starts or when something starts, I kind of come up with podcast ideas and narratives. And they lost that game, that first game to Toronto. And I took a look at the lineup and I saw that Stanton wasn't in it.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was, if they lose this game, where you're going to be starting Dominguez and Volpe and Wells in your lineup, and you don't have Stanton, who's been wonderful since coming off the injured list, and put you behind the 8 ball, I said, okay, I know what I'm going to talk about. And I give Wells credit because he drove in a couple of runs, but I mainly give the bullpen credit because there was like 3 innings there. The one that Weaver started, the one where Bednar had to relieve Cruz, that it just looked like, hey, we are one swing away from this just being a Toronto massacre. Or it would feel like the game. It would feel like some of those games when they lost in Texas. And I just said, here it comes, and I got to give the relief corps. The relief corps has been getting a lot of grief.
Rightly so. Rightly so, because they were blowing a lot of games from August 1st on. Yeah.
That second game, because they would have been, if they lost that game, then today would have been like the game where they won the final game against Boston. You're like, well, yeah, but you already lost the series.
Yeah.
That set up Fried with a chance to win the series. And that just, in many ways, and today was just, today the Blue Jays did everything. The Yankees did everything in their power to give this game to the Blue Jays today.
Yeah, definitely.
And And as you said earlier, you said this is exactly the type of game they would have lost a month ago.
Yeah, maybe 2 months ago, because they were starting to get a little better in August. So I would say like July, when it didn't seem like they were winning anything, and even June, because that's when the boom swoon starts. It starts in June, carries through to July, or it starts in July, carries through to August, and then they snap out of it in September. But the Yankees, I believe the record that I saw, they're 26-19 since August 1st. So they definitely turned things around, because for those 2 months, June and July, they were putrid. As good as they were at the front of the year, the start, they were just as bad in June and July. It was a complete, like, up here and down there sort of thing with them. And this is a pattern with Boone teams. It's a pattern with the way the roster is constructed. And both Saturday and Sunday were 2 games that they would have lost in June or July. Both of them.
We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what started this turnaround and what worries Yankee fans may have going into the American League playoffs, which for the first time in a while looked pretty secure for the Yankees. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives like me. If organizing your finances is not the thing for you, Monarch is the thing for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and then you can feel like you're in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And you know what? Sometimes you're not saving as much as you think. Sometimes your 401k is not investing well. And sometimes you have, subscriptions and things like that you forgot you even had. Well, guess what? You can maximize your investments and increase your savings rate, easily reviewing your finances with your partner, your spouse, whomever, or your financial advisor for that matter, giving you a clear view of your financial health week to week, long-term, etc. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com when you use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's monarchmoney.com. Now, Stacey, I'm gonna let you drive a big section of this particular segment, but I do want to just say I think the biggest turnaround, and I think that has helped the Yankees the most from my perspective, is the fact that Fried isn't going on to that spiral. Like it looked like when he was pitching badly, and all of a sudden, oh my God, does he have blisters? Does he have blisters? Does he got, he was like one bad start away from doing the Rodney Dangerfield, ow, my arm trip to the injured list. The fact that he has turned the switch back on and he's pitching like the all-star Cy Young contender. He's not going to win the Cy Young because his name's not Tarek Skubal, but he is pitching like an ace again. And by the way, if Garrett Cole wasn't hurt and they had a mediocre Garrett, this team would be running away with it. But I digress. But from my perspective, the fact that Fried is pitching like an ace again, and when his start is coming up, you're going to get a quality start, is the biggest turnaround for the Yankees, certainly over the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah, because Fried is the stopper. He has an incredible record. I think going into Sunday's game, I think the last start he made, I think he was like 10-1 following a Yankees loss, something crazy like that.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, he plays the role that Garrett Cole usually played for the Yankees, especially the year that he won the Cy Young. It always felt like the Yankees were coming off a loss, and then you just penciled in a win for Garrett Cole because you're like, oh, okay, he's the stopper. But yeah, Fried coming around. I think the finger was bothering him, and they just didn't want to say anything because it was just so odd. Like he went from being so good to being so bad. Like there was almost like no in between there. And now he's back to not quite as good as he was at the beginning of the year because he was incredible. Like those first 2 months.
He was a Cy Young contender. He was a Cy Young contender.
His ERA was like hovering around 2 1.9. Like it was just, and it wouldn't go up, but he was really incredible. So yeah, it's a big deal to have him turn around and to have that guy that you look into the rotation, you see his spot is coming up and you think to yourself, they got this.
And he's got the postseason pedigree.
Yeah.
I mean, lest we forget when Atlanta beat Houston in 2021, he was the one who the clinching game in Houston was the dominating pitcher. And that's one of the reasons why, the Yankees fell over themselves to sign him to the long-term deal. But he's been there and he's also done that. But yeah, I think that, and the other thing is your buddy Stanton coming back, obviously. I mean, the frustrating thing about Stanton's career, I'm going to make a weird Red Sox comparison here, but like I've seen two players who were with the Red Sox who came out of the gate as MVP caliber players and had a rash of injuries that sort of kept them from being Hall of Famers. One was Freddie Lynn and the other was Nomar. And their peak was like they're the best player in the game or in the conversation for the best player in the game. And when they got injured, it was so frustrating because you could see the flashes of that greatness popping up, but you also know you had to sit him for a period of time and everything. Stanton is like that, at least from my point of view. But you also know that he doesn't shy away from an October moment. So there's a little bit of like, you want to freeze him like Han Solo and just unfreeze him. Just unfreeze him when October shows up. He was like a couple of yards away from having a 3 home run game in that wild card game at Fenway in 2020. I mean, he beat Cleveland with a rented drum last year. It was just he was homering at will. And we're starting to see him acting like that again. And that Jenga piece is something you got to figure out a way to get them in the lineup at the same time all the time. He and Judge.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they put Judge back in the field. I know that throwing isn't looking great, but he made a great diving play on a Springer ball that could have been a disaster. So,
Actually, I was watching the game, and when he made that diving catch, look, I'm going to stop the rumor. I'm not a Yankee fan, but I do want the best players in baseball on the field. I don't wish injuries. When I saw him making a dive, my first thought was, oh dear.
Yeah.
And if this were in June, that ball would have bounced over him, rolled to the wall. He would be holding his shoulder. The Grisham would have to run all the way to the corner. It would be a go-ahead inside the park home run, and the final score would have been 38-4. I mean, and then there would be, and Judge would be back on the injured list. So that's what in June. That's what would have happened. And now he made the sliding. That would have been the game-tying double.
Yeah.
If he didn't, or if he just said, "Oh, I'm going to just try to cut it off because I don't want to get injured again," which I don't think anyone in the world would have. I don't feel like diving because I just cut off the injured list. I don't think anyone in the world would have blamed him for that.
Right.
But he made that play, and that probably saved the game because that would have tied the game at that point. And then we all see when Toronto's offense gets going, they get going great. Tell me your thoughts on the rotation. Obviously, you're going to have let's just assume, look, if they can catch the Blue Jays, but it's a lot to ask to make up 3 games, especially with the Blue Jays having the tiebreaker situation. Let's say it's was it?
I said right, but the Yankees have an easier schedule than the Blue Jays do for the rest of the season. And with the way the Yankees beat up on teams that don't have good records, it might actually work in the Yankees' favor.
Okay, well, either way, let's go division series. Okay, obviously you have to start Fried, whatever series, whether it's wild card division series, you have to start Fried game 1.
I would say Fried, Heel, Rodon, go left, right, left.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you use a 4th starter?
I think you have them on reserve, but I think you stick to 3. I think you stick to Fried, Heel, and Rodon. And then you have Schlittler in the back pocket there. Because I would say a couple weeks ago, Brian and I had this discussion on the show. I brought it up as a possibility because of the way that Cam Schlittler was pitching great and lasting into games and looking really good. And he was getting stronger and stronger. And Heel was having a little trouble coming back, and he was slow to come back. I thought that it wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibility that Schlittler would make it into the playoff rotation ahead of Heel. But now in the last week and a half, I'm thinking to myself, well, Heel is starting to look more like Luis Heel of 2024, and maybe
Right.
he will win his spot back into the playoff rotation. But I really think, at least for the first, I think 3 is fine. And I definitely, Rodon is also, people kind of overlook him because
He's been solid.
he's been very solid. And there have been plenty of opportunities for him to have a game where he implodes like he did the first year he was with the Yankees, and he hasn't let that happen.
Yeah.
And he's just looking a lot better. And he's another one of those guys where you kind of when you see Rodon in the rotation, you see he's coming up. You also think to yourself, all right, they have a chance in this one because Rodon is much better than he was when he first started with the Yankees.
And does Will Warren have a role? I mean, Will Warren hasn't missed a start.
Yeah.
Will Warren has done what you would ask. If I told you that he would be, he's not been John Smoltz, but he's been
solid.
He's been solid. You can't, he's done what you would have asked him to do.
Yeah, he slowed down a bit. He had those 2 really bad starts, right? He started the 18-2 game against the Dodgers, so his ERA is bloated because of 2 really bad games that he had. I mean, he has a place on the team in the postseason. I just don't know what it would be.
I bet I would keep him in reserve if Heel doesn't pitch well. You bring Warren in to be the long guy.
Right.
Kind of the Ramiro Mendoza role,
Yeah, it could be him or Schlittler. Either one of those 2 could do that. Because, Schlittler's I feel like watching him is almost like watching Garrett Cole. And he kind of looks similar to Garrett Cole, except he wears the high socks. Sometimes I kind of do a double take when I see Schlittler on the mound. I'm like, oh, right. No, that's not Cole. It's Cam Schlittler. Okay. But I think both of those guys have a role in either the rotation or as guys who come out of the bullpen to give the power arms in the bullpen a spell in case someone doesn't have a good start and you need someone to go in who can pitch a few innings and then get to the bullpen if need be.
And I'll tell you that every Giant fan I know sends me a text every time Doval screws up. Because they all said, we knew. We all knew. They were all dancing and celebrating. He's Armando Benitez 2.0.
Yeah.
Well, look, when we come back, I do want to talk about the playoffs, which the Yankees are pretty much secure in that right now. So the American League playoffs, who knows? Let's hear from our good friends over at Zippix. Now, whether you're looking for a nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix will be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping, and it's available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligram and 3 milligram nicotine option. And if you need energy without the crash, these are the caffeine toothpicks. And I'm telling you, they're a game changer. I'm a teacher when I'm not podcasting, and sometimes I need that little boost, but I'm in a school. What am I going to do? I can't sit around with a big pot of coffee near me. And do you want the caffeine toothpicks before and in between classes? They give me a little boost, a little energy without the jitters. And flavors like this one here. We got the peppermint. We got peppermint walnut, watermelon ice. I mean, it's fantastic. Now, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go to zippixtoothpicks.com. Check right down there. Use the code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Look, you can get even this little carrier for your toothpicks here and keep them right with you. You must be 21 or older in order to make this, deal. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. zippixtoothpicks.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. Zip more. Smoke less with Zippix toothpicks. That's a Zippix, ending with an X, starting with a Z.
I would just like to say, because I just saw this on my phone, the Yankees are 18-7 over their last 25 games, which is the best record in MLB over that span. They're 80-63 now that they beat the Blue Jays on Sunday, and that ties their season high of 17 games over 500. So they're doing what they need to do to head into the playoffs and make people think, oh, okay, maybe they can actually beat teams that are playing over 500.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because we got about 5 minutes left in the show here. The American League does not have, and this is good news for the Yankees. Even if they do wind up being the wild card team or playing the wild card series, there's no team in the American League that is heads and shoulders better than everybody else.
Right.
Nor is there any team going to make the playoffs, even with Kansas City and Texas looming, in the wings. There's no team that is heads and shoulders below everybody else. It's pretty, you're not going to have a 95 win team in the American League. You're not going to have many 90 win teams in the American League for that matter. Toronto is a good team with very vulnerable pitching. Detroit has the best pitcher in the American League, but their offense is sporadic, and they've had stretches where they lose 5-6 games in a row. Houston can look really, really good, and they got back Alvarez, they got back Correa, but they also lost the series to Texas, and they lost the series to the Yankees. The Yankees, especially with Fried pitching on that, they're firing on all cylinders, but I don't want to spoil you. They can sometimes go on some bad stretches. Just saying. Boston, just please don't get eliminated by the Yankees. They have Crochet, which Crochet, you're going to see competing prayers here. Crochet is one of the best pitchers in baseball. And somehow Aroldis Chapman is become dynamite. But they've also had a ton of injuries in their lineup. I know, wah. But their rotation after Crochet, I mean, Bello is pitching well, Giolito's pitching well, but it's like there's some coin tosses in there. And I certainly don't look at them as a super team. So it's really going to be who has 2 good weeks.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's really,
any one of those teams
can
make it to the World Series, and any one of those teams could be eliminated in 3.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing that there is no clear team that's like head and shoulders above the rest. There are nearly 10 teams that are, like, look at how the Rays have picked things up in the last few weeks. Like, they're even not that far out from the third wild card spot. Yeah.
Texas is a game and a half out and would have Bruce Bochy managing with Eovaldi and DeGrom pitching 1 and 2 in the best of 3 series. You want to face that? It's like
I thought Eovaldi was out now, wasn't he?
Oh, you're right, he is. I'm sorry, my bad. Bad. But
like,
he's
for the rest of the season, right?
I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. I digress. I made my but again, it's an every other year in Bochy the manager. I'm just saying. But if you asked me a couple of days ago, I would have picked Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It could. I don't trust the Blue Jays pitching.
But don't you find, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but there are other teams, like, it feels like a baseball thing, not just for the AL, but you see how bad the Dodgers can look at times and how they're getting beat up by teams, and
they can't even complete a no-hitter the other day.
Yeah, that was amazing. But like, the Dodgers have gone on a couple of 6-game losing streaks, and they have these like spells where it's so weird with the Dodgers. It feels like they play down to the bad teams, but they play up for the Padres for some reason. It's kind of strange how that works out. But I think it's a thing throughout baseball that so many teams are having issues and not playing.
The Brewers.
Right. They're the only team that really like broke out ahead of people, but everyone else is kind of struggling with being consistent and not having an up and down kind of season.
And the Brewers really remind me of the 2015 Royals. In that they don't have the big, huge superstar, but
right.
they have an answer at every position.
What do you mean? They have Caleb Durbin.
Well, that's true. And I mean, but they have an answer at every position. They go first to third on singles. They play really solid defense, and they put the teams on their heels. They don't give you extra outs, but they'll take extra outs. And they just seem to be playing every game on an even keel. And I think Milwaukee, the way they're playing now, especially after the injury to Zach Wheeler, because I was preaching the choir of the Phillies, but when they lost Wheeler, that's a big blow. That's he is an ace.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll find out. I mean, there's almost no way to make a bet right now. It's like we'll just find out who wins. If I were a betting man, which I'm not, do you know what? I'm going to pick the Yankees. I figure I'm
Don't
going
do
to
that.
pick the.
Don't
Do you
do
know
that.
what? I think. You know what? I'm going to make the parade route. This is number 28.
But
Um,
wouldn't it be amazing though if the Brewers
Yankees.
won after the way they started off against the Yankees in that first series?
Oh yeah.
Has that
It,
ever
it, it,
happened where a team has been outscored by that many runs and they go on to
was,
win the World Series?
was it the first three batters who homered off of Nestor Cortez or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. It was
They all thought they were Freddie
Goldschmidt,
Freeman.
Judge, Bellinger, and then Wells was a couple of batters later. It was
Yeah.
4-0 by the
Yeah.
end of the first inning. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. By the
And it was
way,
on 3 pitches, if I'm not mistaken. It was the
yeah.
first 3 pitches.
And it was Nestor Cortez too, which is
Yeah.
borderline cruel. Who's a
Mhm.
Padre now?
Yeah, I
But
forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah,
his
he
back
is.
of his baseball card's getting cluttered. It's like going to be like Alan Embry's, or Dan
Octavio
Schachter.
Dotel.
Oh, that's
May he
right.
rest
Yeah.
in peace.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for making Locked On MLB and Locked On Yankees your first listen. For your second listen, either listen to at Locked On MLB or Locked On Yankees. But then come back to this feed where we got the Locked On MLB game night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned, which I'm picking the Yankees. The Yankees are going to go all the way. Do you know what? The only question is, are they going to repeat next year? Get local analysis on a national scale. You know what I'm doing. Find MLB Game Night here on the Locked On MLB feed on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And just a quick here, the trivia question is going to be, it's a simple one. Who is the first pitcher to earn a postseason victory for the New York Yankees? Could be World Series, could be playoffs. The first pitcher to earn a postseason victory for the New York Yankees. I'm going to give you a clue. He's no longer active. That is the trivia question. And there you go. And I'll tell Stacey who it is when we're off the air. All right, Stacey, where can they listen to your show?
Locked On Yankees. You can find us on every podcasting platform
You should
available.
be able to figure this out, folks.
Yeah. If you'd like to watch us on YouTube, we are closing in on 9,900 subscribers.
All right.
We're kind of we're hoping to get to 10,000 before the playoffs start. So if you'd like to help us with that, feel free to subscribe to Locked On Yankees.
Talking about the turnaround of the Yankees. The boon swoon is over. Now will it be a boon boom? With Stacey Gotsulias, spelled correctly, of Locked On Yankees. It's with an E. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.